Hello, you're listening to Butterball. This is a podcast. We're three family members. We're talking ball. We're having a ball. Hi, everybody. My name's Scott.
Hey, y'all. I'm Nicole. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Butterball Podcast. Check out our clips on there at Butterball Podcast.
And I'm Drew. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at Butterball Podcast or listen to us on Spotify. Just search Butterball.
All right, well, we're already into August. We only met a couple of times in July because we had family vacations and some other things that came up. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the MLB Trade Deadline and NCAA rulings on eligibility and the Save College Sports Act, and then we'll get into a little bit of a college football preview. Does that sound good to everybody?
It's good to me.
Got to do college football given that it's August. Everyone's very excited. I just want to announce that's why I'm wearing this jersey. This is my Baker Mayfield Cleveland Browns jersey that I got when he went to the NFL because I'm a huge Baker fan. Goes back to my OU roots, and I love him. His Netflix quarterback series just came out too, so I've just been enjoying him lately, so I decided to throw this on in honor of him today.
Well, that's nice. I mean, if you followed Baker's career from the start, you'd have four pro jerseys to pick from. But, the Cleveland one was the start. That's good.
Yeah, Cleveland's the OG.
I think some of his best work in Cleveland, though, were the commercials they did.
Everybody loves those.
Yeah.
I mean, they were pretty dang good.
They were. I like when he's like in one of the restrooms or something, or in the locker room, and the lights are like buzzing, and he's like trying to figure out which light or which smoke alarm is going off or something like that. I don't know. It was pretty good.
He's got to go change or turn off the breaker or whatever.
Yeah.
Baker at home.
Yeah.
Baker at home. You didn't like the one where he was mowing the lawn?
I don't remember that one as well.
Oh.
I like the one where him and his wife are like trying to get in the car and he keeps forgetting stuff and he has to keep going through the metal detector and security back and forth.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. That's some good ones. I watched the Netflix series. It's fun to watch. I think it's always interesting to see behind the scenes stuff and just get their opinions and thoughts and stuff. So, I'd watch it.
Yeah. And I've been saying we need another quarterback with swag like Baker because Baker had a lot of swag.
Well, I mean, at OU?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little later then. We'll talk a little bit about that. All right. Well, let's start with in the news, MLB Trade Deadline. We had touched on like how the teams, Drew and I did last week, how the teams were doing after the All-Star break or right at the All-Star break. And it started out like really, really slow, but then at the end there was kind of a flurry of activity. So the big trade was obviously, Drew,
Tarek Skubal to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
That was kind of the big shoe everyone was waiting to drop. And as soon as that happened, then everything else exploded after that.
So, like, what teams were people expecting? Like, the Brewers probably should have been trying to go after him, right?
No, the Brewers were in on it. I mean, the Brewers and Dodgers were the top two that everyone was pretty much guessing. But I wouldn't have been surprised if, like, the Red Sox tried to get in on him, too.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could look at it and go, if you're a Brewers fan, you're kind of going, damn, why didn't we go get this guy? Because, you've got Mizrowski that throws 104, but yet he's starting to have arm problems and stuff. And if you want to make a run or, this could be the time where you could really do some damage, but now they don't have him. But the Dodgers do. Thank God the Dodgers do because, geez, they really need him, right? I mean,
the Dodgers might have a solid 9-man rotation on their team right now.
It's ridiculous how this Dodger team that is already the World Series favorite just got infinitely stronger almost, with just another stud pitcher, but if you're willing to pay the money and everything else, that's what you can do, right?
Yeah, it's funny. The coping I see is, there won't be a baseball season next year anyway, so who cares at this point?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what were some of the other good ones or big ones that you thought came down at the end?
Well, like we said before, my favorite player, Luis Arias, he went to the Phillies. That'll be a good pickup for them.
So that's the guy that's the toughest out in baseball anymore, right?
Yeah. Pure contact hitter as much as it gets.
Well, I
I know
hope
a
they do
Phillies
go deep
fan.
into the playoff. I hope they do go deep into the playoffs because I love watching hitters like that. I mean, it already gets tough in the playoffs anyway. You can't. It's hard to strike everybody out in the playoffs for some reason, but they strike out a ton during the season, it seems. But then they get in
Mhm.
the playoffs, and man, these guys foul off like 10 pitches, and it gets pretty. They lock it in. It's fun.
And the Phillies have a solid lineup too. Like I expect them to do good things in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It'll just come down to pitching, which that's what I was gonna say. I know a Phillies fan who was a little upset they didn't go after more pitching at the deadline and picked up him instead.
It brought to mind the conversation that we had when Nicole was saying that, like, some guy tells you that he plays baseball and you go, yeah, you're a pitcher, because like they're all pitchers that are the big moves to make, really,
Mhm.
right? I mean, hardly any position player has really changed, but there's a lot of pitching changes that happen with the trade deadline.
Oh
And
yeah,
it, and it makes sense because everybody needs pitching.
gotta fill out that bullpen right before the postseason.
Exactly. Exactly. But who was the catcher? He went from the Orioles to the Red Sox.
Adley Rutschman,
Yeah, yeah. So that was a big one, right?
former #1 overall pick.
You think any team like totally screwed things up, or what?
Screwed it up. I've heard mixed reviews on the Cubs moves and the Brewers moves. But the Brewers did pick up Dustin May. I think that'll be a good addition for them.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue too that the Orioles kind of screwed up because the Orioles had a chance and they just kind of like they give up Rutschman and they're kind of going, well, we're moving on, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like probably frustrates the shit out of some of those fans in those cities, where they're like, we still got a chance. We're only 5 games out or whatever, and then they make these moves. But, when it comes to like contracts ending and, are you going to get anything for the player and all that? We talked about that in hockey. It's the same thing in baseball. I mean, they're not going to let guys just hold them hostage and then get nothing for them.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, that's always fun. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll check back in. So now let's move on. We'll spend the rest of the time talking about college sports, college football primarily. But before we get to that, we've been talking in the past episodes about NCAA rulings on both eligibility and NIL and things like that. The College Protects College Sports Act. So there has been more developments in the eligibility front. So this was the year that the NCAA was introducing now players coming in as freshmen, they have 5 years to play 5 seasons of sports, and they can compete in 5, which is different, in the past. In the past, you supposedly could only compete in 4 seasons. And just like everything else, they got challenged in court by players that were that are just finishing their 4th year, and they're saying, well, wait, not fair. I should get a 5th year now because I'm just getting done this year. And you had 2 district courts that ruled in favor of players, one in Denver and one in Nashville. So the NCAA they're going to appeal it. But for now, these players are declared eligible to play another year. What do you think about that?
What schools was that for? Was that for Vanderbilt and who?
The basketball was for different teams. There was 19 total players. I don't know why it was filed in Nashville, but it was for 19 players across different teams. The case in Denver was brought in Denver because I think that's where the NCAA meets now or something, or they're meeting recently. And it was also for multiple players across several teams as well.
I heard someone said on Friday a judge ordered the NCAA to make any athlete from high school class of 2022 eligible for 1 more year. So I'm assuming that's the same thing, but forgive me if this wasn't clear, but like, why the high school class? What did they miss out on? COVID was over.
Because because they were playing under the 4 seasons of eligibility rule, when now they just came down with this. Now everybody gets 5 seasons of eligibility, and they're going, well, wait, we just got gypped out of a year. So, because
I mean, yeah, I guess.
It's like if the drinking age changes when you're 20
Yeah.
to
And
21, and then you're saying, well, wait, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, it's not going to affect a ton of people. It's just like people who didn't make the NFL are going to want to play again.
It's just another example of, again, until the federal legislation comes across that says the NCAA can rule their sport across the country with federal backing, they're going to continually get challenged in every district court in every state across America and lose.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it happens over and over
by
and over
this
again.
By this logic too, can't you just every single year be like, but the people before me got it, but the people before me got it, but the people
Well, as long
before
as
me got
rules
it.
keep changing, yeah, that's what they're doing. Okay, so the ruling for eligibility, I think the reason too, Nicole, that it comes back up is because you are coming off all these COVID years and everything else, where people got all these extra years. They were getting medical red shirts. They were getting all this stuff. Now all that's being cut out, and now it's just you got 5 years. And so people that just got 4, they're going, I just got screwed. And so they're trying to then give a little bridge there and give it back, or that's what the judges are doing. The NCAA says no. So the interesting thing is Indiana has a pretty strong defensive lineman that is eligible to come back. And so they're like, he's gonna, because, he got hurt before the NFL draft and all that kind of stuff. So he can play for them this year, and he can really help them. However, if they let him play and then the NCAA wins in court, then they would be declared ineligible. He'd be declared ineligible. So it's goofy, still that way. So, I mean, I don't know if Indiana's still going to say, well, we'll wait it out to see if there's a ruling, or if they just let him play and take a chance or whatever. We'll see what they do there. The other thing, when we were talking about the Protect College Sports Act, the last time we talked about it, everybody but the Big Ten and the SEC were saying, yeah, we're in, we're good. We want the federal government to step in, do something, help us out, because this is chaos. And the Big Ten and the SEC are saying, well, hold on, there's still some things that we need to talk about, because there's a lot of money involved, and we are the show.
Because we want no cap. Yeah. We want to keep spending money.
Yeah. And they have all the power and control. So, but in the articles I was reading this week, they were saying that the Big Ten and the SEC have both came to the table and said, we're getting close to being ready to agree, basically based on there's language around what consists of third-party NIL deals and associated entities. So, Nicole, you want to explain that a little bit? Can you explain that or not?
I mean, I don't know if I know the ins and outs of the legislation, but they're trying to drive out third-party NIL. And so what the legislation and the schools want is for everything to be done in-house. So the schools want to manage NIL entirely, which pros and cons, how you slice and dice it. I think there's good and bad to having schools solely in charge of it. And then again, it brings me back to who's regulating it. But yeah.
Associated entities has to do with media rights, media spending, corporate sponsors, and apparel brand deals as well. So
yeah, because those are NIL deals too right now.
Yeah. So what's happening is you have a lot of money in that pot, and so the Big Ten and the SEC schools are saying, well, hold on, we don't want that regulated, because their players are going to make tons of money. That just gives them a bigger pot of money, because everybody's going to want to have SEC teams wearing their apparel, their players wearing their apparel, all that stuff. So there's all these opportunities for money to be thrown at their players, and they don't want to give that up. And
I agree.
yeah,
I don't think that should be regulated because, Nike's not paying LeBron James the same as Joe Schmo in the G League. It's the
yeah.
same type of deal.
Well, and that's where Deloitte got introduced, because now they're there to audit and make sure that the deals are market value and that, it's not getting out of hand and all that kind of stuff. However, there's the rest of the teams in the NCAA are saying, but there has to be some kind of rule. There has to be some kind of stopgap. There has to be some kind of cap, and while the Big Ten and the SEC don't want a cap, there really does need to be a cap when you look at it that way,
There
because
absolutely needs
how
to
do you
be.
ever figure it out? I mean, you can't figure it out.
Well, and the corporate sponsorships and all that makes sense too, because if Adidas is paying to have a sign on the basketball court, how do you make sure that that money's actually going towards the sign on the basketball court and not to, the star on the team? Like, that's how some of this is working right now. And so, like, that's also a piece of it as well.
So what they were getting closer to was, originally when you talked about the House settlement, that led to $21.5 million of revenue being distributed back out to athletes by way of pay for play.
Mm-hmm.
Now they were talking about 27.5 million being the NIL pool cap that could be spread out now, so the cap would essentially be just under $50 million.
Yeah, but that's just from the settlement or whatnot. And so then there's still your deals can all add on top of that 27.5.
So there's still things that have to be worked out, because there's still a lot of ambiguity in how everybody interprets the legislation that has been written, and what it would be before it even got enacted into law and stuff like that. So it's still crazy. I mean, and there's so much money involved in it. It's wild. It's just it's a wild deal. So anyway, that's where it stands. I think it's going to be a slow road for him to get there because of this. It's a super, super complex deal with a lot of money and the special interests of the SEC and the Big Ten. They're the big boys that hold the cards,
Well, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea to have all of this ran in-house by schools? Like, how do you feel about like third party marketing companies being, driven out of the NIL game? Like, overall, do y'all think that's like a bad move or good? What do y'all think?
No, what I think is, I think they should define a cap. I mean, you have cap spending in pro sports. I mean, why can't they define a cap for college and say,
Yeah.
you can, there can be X amount of money paid to your players through both the House settlement and NIL. How you do that or whatever, you have $50 million, keep it at that, whatever, I mean, there has to be something, because otherwise, if they don't set like some type of limit, then they're just going to abuse it. They'll abuse it. They'll try to find ways to abuse it anyway. But I mean, there has to be some kind of cap, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the third party stuff, I would like to dive more into like the logic as far as like why they want to drive out third parties, because to my knowledge, I don't think the third party like agents or whatnot are necessarily the ones like bringing in the huge deals. Like, if a company wants Arch Manning, they're gonna get Arch Manning. It's not really the third party's fault, or, like people slinging a bunch of money through a third party or like whatever. Like, you know what I mean? If they want Arch Manning, they're gonna get Arch Manning and they're gonna pay him millions. Like, that's just what happens. So I don't really feel like driving out the third parties helps at all. We're gonna put everything into the universities, and we know how slow everything gets ran whenever it has to go through the institution of, academia or whatever. And so in athletic departments, it's usually a little bit faster, but I don't know. That'll be interesting having everything go in-house.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming, but
the interesting thing to me is, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, the talk was, oh, these guys, they should at least get like a couple $1,000, a year or a month or whatever, and now you're looking at millions. I mean, so
Yeah. How did we
that's
get
just
here?
that
And
just
it's
shows
not
you.
even NIL. It's not even rev share is literally getting paid to play. Like, let's just call it what it is.
It's pay to play. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
And
been
like,
turned into the minor leagues,
what is this? Yeah. We're
and
all just like adapting but I thank you for calling that out because I think we've all forgotten that like NIL is supposed to be commercials and selling your own merch and stuff like that when right now it's quite literally pay for play.
Yeah, it's turned into all of a sudden college sports is basically a minor league system now. Everybody knew it was before anyway, but it's interesting too because like most people, they'll look at the value of the education. I mean, if people think that an education's cheap, they're freaking crazy. I know how much came out of my bank account, when you kids were in college.
More than a free education as well. Like if you really want to start counting pennies, the personalized nutrition plans and like snacks that they get fed every day and their housing and their transportation and everything else.
But you realize there was a time when NCAA rules said they couldn't snack between meals. It was stupid. It was so dumb. That's why.
Who gave you that snack?
You had a bagel between breakfast and lunch? I'm sorry, but you're ineligible.
Who bought you?
I mean, it was freaking nuts.
Who bought you that snack?
Yeah. Who bought the bagel? Yeah. We gotta make sure that booster is now, on the do not fly list. It's crazy. It's just stupid. That's why they're where they are. It's a huge bureaucracy, and they did such a horrible job of just managing it for such a long time that it just got out of control. And so now they're trying to catch it from behind. And man, it's that tail is strong. They're grabbing a dragon's tail on this one, getting whipped around all over the place. It's nuts. Well, let's move on to college football. Man, I'm so excited for college football. It's August and the games start later in the month, and there is not a better time of the year than football season. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I love hockey. I love other sports, but football season is so fun, and college football is a great time too. But now it's interesting because when you look at, all right, well, let's just look at the very top division of football, the Division 1A in the NCAA. There's 138 teams, and you look at, well, what conferences are we going to talk about? It's really going to come down to about 4 conferences, 2 really, when you think about, who the majors are. That's what it's came down to now. Even though the college football playoff field has expanded to 12 teams, when you really look at it, there's the talk is kind of like, is there a lot to talk about? There's 138 teams, but how many are you going to talk about? You're probably going to end up talking about 40 teams, really, at the most.
Mm-hmm.
But so let's talk about them. Let's see what's going on. What conference you want to start with? You guys pick.
Flip a coin. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me.
I'd start ACC.
ACC. All right. Let's talk about the ACC. Last year, the ACC, when you look at like their 2025 finish, it's kind of interesting because you had Duke and Virginia that were at the top with interesting records. Duke had a 6-2 conference record, but a 9-5 overall. So they had zero chance of making the playoffs, but they were at the top of the conference because they were winning conference games. Mm-hmm. And then you had Virginia, 7-1, 11-3 overall for the season. They didn't make the playoffs either. Miami did. And they were 6-2, 13-3 overall after the playoff run last year. Pittsburgh and SMU were the next 2 teams in that conference. So,
are we counting Notre Dame too?
No, not counting, because they're still independent. Really, I mean, they play that schedule, but they're considered an independent, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it is bizarre. So, so you had Miami that made the playoffs last year out of the ACC, and that's probably, if you look at this year. In the playoffs, there will probably only be 1 team from the ACC that makes it. But so 2026, who would you guess would be the team that's going to be ranked first in the ACC.
Well, I was counting Notre Dame, so I said them. But if we don't count them, then Miami again.
Yeah, Miami at the top. I think people think highly of SMU too, because man, shit, SMU was paying people in 1989. Now it's legal, so man, they should get really good now. They know how to do it. They've got a history of how to make this stuff work.
SMU should be better this year.
They made the playoff last year, so
yeah, but they should be better this year as well. Which paying players for real now.
Exactly, and you got Louisville and Clemson that are jumping in there. The big difference when you look at the ACC last year to this year, if I give a summary on the top 6 of what they're saying, at least this is what ESPN said, you'd have the teams that were at the top in the top 6 last year. Duke, Virginia, and Pitt are all going to fall out of the top 6, and Louisville, Clemson, and Virginia Tech are going to jump up in. I don't disagree with that. I mean, James Franklin's new coach at Virginia Tech. He's taken some Penn State guys with him. He's coming in, a lot of juice behind him. That conference isn't that tough. I could see him winning games there. That makes sense to me. Louisville, I like their coach. I think they kind of ebb and flow a little bit, I think, but I wouldn't surprise me. And then Clemson, I mean, they've kind of fallen off for a couple of years. They probably need to make a resurgence. Otherwise, Dabo's going to be gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Soon.
I've kind of been thinking that for a couple of years now.
They're probably a one playoff conference, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the champion.
Since we're talking about one playoff conferences, we might as well go to the Big 12, right? So Big 12, when you look at the top 3 teams, there's really not expected to be a change from last year to this year, right?
Yeah. Tech will still be a good team despite all of their shenanigans. But so we'll see. I'm sure they'll go to the championship, right? I wonder if they'll win it or not. I guess it just depends on how everything shakes out.
Well, it depends on their quarterback situation.
And I mean the conference championship is what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're last year their quarterback situation wasn't great last year anyway. I mean,
yeah,
they were okay, but it wasn't like Baron Morton was setting the world on fire and everything else. I mean,
this was supposed to be their answer, though.
Yeah, it was supposed to be their answer. Well, that's what they thought, national championship. Probably not thinking that now, but Big 12 championship.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments on our Instagram clips about Texas Tech, which we've been quite enjoying the engagement. Yeah. And we aren't afraid to fire back a comment either, because it has been funny, though, the entitlement of the Texas Tech fans. I think it was just a lot of shell shock. Like, they thought that they had it in the bag, and all of a sudden it was ripped out from under them, and they just don't know how to cope with that,
Yeah, well, like all the other NCAA lawsuits that you see, the NCAA always seems to lose, but this one, they weren't going to lose,
because it was ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, Tech at the top, you got BYU and Utah. Last year to this year, they're projected to be top 3, which probably I wouldn't disagree with that. Then you got, last year, the next teams were interesting. You had Arizona, Houston, Arizona State, and Iowa State. Those were the top teams from last year. I don't think that's going to play out the same way this year, and ESPN doesn't see it the same way either. ESPN sees K-State popping up in there, and they've got, they had a coaching change, so they've got a little energy behind Colin Klein as their new coach. I know Avery Johnson, their quarterback, is back, so who knows? I suppose they could win some games. Arizona's still projected to be in there, but then TCU jumps in there. And TCU is kind of another one of those teams that's been up and down, up and down, up and down. I like their coach, Sonny Dykes. I think he does a good job with the team and stuff, so we'll see. But then, let's get to what really matters in the Big 12, huh, Drew?
Yes.
Yeah, we got to get to what really matters. And that's Oklahoma State is expected to climb out of the cellar this year.
Yeah. I looking at that ESPN projection, I think it had us 6-6 or something.
Yeah, they're expecting 6 wins. They're expecting you to be 8th in the conference, which
Yeah,
I'm
and I
sure you
read
all would take that, at this point.
I absolutely would. And I read the article, and the author even says like we're only expected 6-6 because of how bad we were to climb out of, but the author thinks we're going to be pretty dang good with our
Well,
new offense.
well, that's what's so hard
Yeah.
to predict
It's
now.
a
I mean,
whole new team.
when you're looking at a team with 85 new guys out of 105, I mean, it's craziness, So who knows? They might surprise you. The other
I'll
interesting thing,
actually watch. I will actually tune in and watch because I'm curious to see
yeah.
how they're going to be. Like last year, I don't think I cared to ever be like, oh, Oklahoma State's playing. Like, let me see. This year, I'll tune into a few just because I'm curious what they're going to look like.
Well, and I have to admit that I don't like watching bad quarterback play. So I was getting tired of watching, Oklahoma State for a while.
Good old
But
Bowman.
yeah, I mean, because they're just having bad quarterback play. Well, and then last year the Hengy got hurt right away.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, and then after that, boom, downhill. And so, as long as Messmaker is upright and throwing and they're slinging it around like he did at North Texas and stuff, I'll be interested to see what happens. That'll be fun.
I agree. I have high hopes. Hopefully 6-6 is the worst we can do.
Yeah. Well, but then you got Colorado. Man, have things changed? That almost looks like an Oklahoma State situation where, Deion's first year, they were like, ooh, Trey's going. Yeah, we're pumping hard. Now they're expected to be last in the conference. Well, they were close to the bottom last time. Now they're expected to be last. So we'll see how what he does there this year, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that. Is it because he bet it all on his son or what?
Yeah, it is weird because he brought a bunch of guys from Jackson State. They did really good the first year, and
They
then
had a Heisman winner on their team, for crying out loud.
yeah, and then from there it's just kind of swirling down. So I mean,
maybe they don't maybe they aren't dispersing the money well because that pisses people off. I've heard that was Oklahoma State's problem formerly as well, was that the NIL money was being dispersed to 3 major players, and you've got a whole team you can be spreading it out to. And so Colorado did have some flashy NIL superstars, so maybe all of that was being put towards only a couple people, and it's hard to recruit or get people to want to stay if you're not paying anybody except for 2 people.
So we'll see. Big 12 is going to get one team into the playoff, and that's probably going to be about it. And you're going to have to win the conference. So there you go. All right, so now we got the Big 10 and the SEC. So we'll save the SEC for last since Nicole has a big interest in OU and Texas, and I like the Big 10 myself. Since I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, there, Big 10 football has been a lot of fun. It's changed now with the conference change. However, man, when I look at how the Big 10 played out last year, and really watching Iowa play, Iowa had like a super, super tough defense. They lost a couple of close games. They lost a game they could have won against Indiana, and then they lost a game they could have won against Oregon, both. And with tough defense. But what really impressed me in those games, like especially when Oregon played them, is Oregon ran the ball, and they ran it tough. So they made the adjustment to Big 10 football like, hey, we know we're going to have to pound, and you wouldn't have seen that years ago from Pac-12 teams entering the Big 10, but it is what it is now. And when you look at last year's result in the Big 10, the top 6 teams are basically the same teams that are being projected to be in the top 6 this year, with the addition of Penn State. And I think the only reason Penn State's being projected to be possibly in the top 6 is because Matt Campbell is the new coach there. But he's basically bringing in a new team, as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's bringing in a bunch of Iowa State guys, and, a lot of the recruits that were going to go to Penn State went to Virginia Tech with Franklin, and And so that'll be an interesting thing, I think, too. But you basically have Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, USC, Penn State, Michigan, and Iowa, who are the teams that are projected to be the upper tier of that conference. And then, but hey, that's a conference where all those middle teams, they're tough, man. I mean, they're just physical teams. You got to show up to play. They will, some of those teams will beat teams on if they don't play well on that day and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. And last year the Big Ten got 3 teams into the playoffs. It'll probably be similar, I bet, this year.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Like what you've been saying is a lot of the projections are kind of the same teams as last year. I feel like with how all this NIL has been working, that makes sense because a lot of these teams are the ones with the most money in their respective places. But with that being said, I'm curious this year, since we've talked about how hard it is to like build a culture around your team and stuff when you have so much movement and when you have so much money, honestly, it's still very hard because some of these players entered the transfer portal just to renegotiate their contracts and then maybe now they're back, maybe now they're not. And so I'm curious, some of these teams that are still projected very high, like I wonder if it just isn't going to come together on the field like how they think it will. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, money's one thing and actual playing's another. And then does everybody really like each other and is going to play as a team? That's another thing. So there's a lot to it. And these coaches, they do have demands, now because they do have to build a culture and they got to try to get 18 to 23-year-old kids to focus on play instead of pay. And I don't know how easy that would be, to tell you the truth, because with as much money as out there and stuff, there's a lot of distractions, a lot of things going on. It's got to be tough.
It's definitely, you want to up your own personal stats so that by the time portal season comes around, you have enough to negotiate for. And so with that, you're not necessarily focusing on what's best for the team all the time.
Yep. Every year is a contract year in pro sports. That's how they're playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then we go to the SEC. Prior to the last 3 years, the SEC had won 13 of the last 17 Bowl Championship Series games. 13 of the 17 titles, during the Championship Series time, they rule the roost. Well, in the last 3 years, the Big Ten teams have won. So the Big Ten's going, well, wait a minute, we're here at the top. I don't think there's any argument that, the bottom teams of the SEC are better than the bottom teams of the Big Ten. So from top to bottom, the SEC is, in my opinion, still a tougher conference. And their schedules can be pretty brutal when you look at what they got to do week in, week out. And last year they got 5 teams into the playoffs, and it makes sense to me, that they did. Mm-hmm. So when you look at like last year versus this year, again, it's going to be the same teams are projected to be at the top with one team added in there.
Is it mine?
That wasn't in there last year, huh?
Is it mine?
No, Oklahoma they were in the hunt. They were in the top 6 last year. Who do you think that didn't have a good season last year? This year in the SEC, they say, the pundits would say, oh, they're going to win.
Mizzou.
Wasn't there a big coaching change that you guys remember?
Oh, Lane Kiffin.
There you go. LSU. Since he's going to LSU, boom, that just automatically vaults them into they'll be in the upper echelon of the SEC.
I mean, okay.
I don't disagree with it. The guy knows how to win.
The bottom of the upper echelon. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's a lot of good teams. You got Georgia. Texas is projected to be super good. We'll see if they can. Mm-hmm. Texas A&M, they've got something to prove. They were there last year. Yeah.
I think they'll be good again.
Yeah, and then of course you always got Alabama. Kalen DeBoer.
Georgia.
DeBoer has to do something there. They'll start getting tired of him if he's losing 3 games a year. And OU coming off a big year. And
John Mateer looks jacked. Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So you're talking about, you don't have a quarterback with swag. Shit, he's running around like Rocky.
He has swag now. Yeah. This is new. I've been loving the off-season content. Like they're They look hungry. They look ready. He looks amazing. So I do hope that it translates to on-field swag because I liked him last year, of course. He made me nervous with his hand injury quite a bit. So I feel like I didn't get the full Mateer experience, and he looks excellent going into this year. So I'm excited to see him play. And if he does really well, like we're getting back to our Oklahoma QBU, and then you never know what can happen after that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a throwing hand that was hurt, right?
Are you saying that Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray didn't have swag? Or Dylan Gabriel even?
I mean, no one can compare it to Baker Mayfield's swag. Like the crotch grab at Kansas, the plant the flag at Ohio State. Like you cannot tell me that Jalen Hurts
your crotch,
was
you don't have
given
swag,
that time.
Right?
That's what it was.
No, I like a cocky swag like Johnny Manziel even. Like I like when it's your team, it's really fun. And even if it's not your team, I don't even like A&M. It's just fun to see that because they're so good that you can back it up. Like in the same breath, I will say I hate some of the annoying celebrations or whatever that if a corner does something and then they're like, "Ugh," and I'm like, nobody cares about you. You know what I mean? Like, get out of here. But when the quarterback's doing stuff like that, it's kind of fun.
I'll give you that. Jalen Hurts is not cocky, but Kyler Murray is cocky. He calls himself K1.
Off the field, on the field, he's very strictly business.
He was pretty quiet on the field, though. Like when you watched him play,
he's literally just strictly business. Yeah.
Yeah, when you watch him play, he just kind of.
He gets in and he gets out.
He matriculated the team down the field. They'd score and he'd get off the field. I mean, that's just kind of what he did.
Would do. Yeah, Baker, yelling at people, in the handshakes, coin flips, that's just a different type of experience, and we haven't. OU hasn't had that. I don't even think college football's had that. Everyone loves Joe Burrow, and he is swag right now. I think his swag has happened since he's been in the NFL. He wasn't that swaggy at LSU either. So we haven't had a really cool quarterback.
Well, he did win the Heisman.
We got Shedeur Sanders was only popular because of his swag. It wasn't because of his playing. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but his team sucks, so it's not fun when he does it.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow just had a different personality too. He's just like Joe Cool. He's just super chill. I
really like him now. I like his swag now. I saw something on Twitter and it was like, look at these custom fitted Cartier prescription sunglasses for a client in Ohio. And somebody was commenting and they're like, just say Joe Burrow. And it was hilarious.
We know who those are for.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Wasn't he on the quarterback series too, where he was thinking about buying the Batmobile and all that, and then his house got robbed, and he was like, put the brakes on all that, and he was like, maybe I ought to tone it down a little bit. I don't want to be a target for, out of country burglars and stuff like that. I mean, God, crazy.
Yeah, but John Mateer looks like he might have some swag.
Well, he's definitely a good athlete. And he played last year hurt, and
and he looks amazing this year. Way bigger.
Hopefully he stays healthy, and he's
grown
up. He's becoming a man.
In one summer, but when I'm seeing these reels of him from off-season training, I'm like, ooh, I'm scared. I would be nervous if I was playing against him.
I looked at Athlon Sports' projections for the playoffs, and not a lot of differences there either, really, when you look at last year to this year, because when it comes down to it, last year there were 5 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams. I think they project the same thing for this year. And then ACC team, Big 12 team. This year they're projecting Notre Dame in, which they weren't in there last year. So that'll mean one less group of 6 teams. So you only get one group of 6 team to get in there and, get bludgeoned in the first round and then you move on from there.
But let them in. But just let them in.
It's ridiculous. No, you don't need to let them in. I mean, really, when you look at Division
12 teams.
When you look at Division 1 football, though, there's 138 teams. You basically have the top 50, probably 50 to 60 that are really truly the top division all the rest of Division One, they're just there to fill a schedule. They're not going to win the national championship. No way. They
Unless
don't
a
have to.
team like really proves themselves, I agree. Like
Yeah,
It's
it's the
hard to
same thing with
tell that
like
they're proving themselves, though.
they don't.
yeah, but
Yeah, because
like
they don't
Because
play the
they're
back
schedule.
playing
when
exactly. So that's why I'm like, just
yeah,
let them in and just let them keep getting the shit kicked out of them. Because it's the same thing with when Oklahoma was winning the Big 12 championships, and like, you know, we'd squeak into the playoffs and we'd lose, obviously. But like, still, it's like when you're kicking your conference's ass for 5 years in a row, what are we supposed to do? Just be like, I still don't know if you're like good enough to play at the next
Well, I
level.
mean,
Like, let them try.
you say that. I know when it comes down to football, you care more about Oklahoma than Texas. But Texas last year probably should have got a shot in the playoffs. But
Oh
instead of
yeah.
Texas, you had James Madison and you had Tulane in there last year.
No,
Those two teams.
I do agree that Texas made more sense. And it does pain me to say that, but
Yeah.
Texas, yeah.
Yeah. So last year you had James Madison. They did score 34 points, but they got beat first round 51-34. Got beat by Oregon. Alabama and OU played first round. Alabama won that one by 10.
Yeah.
Tulane got bludgeoned by Ole Miss 41-10 in the first round last year. So enter Boise State 41-10. That's what you're going to see.
Yeah. And Notre Dame makes more sense than 2 group of 5 or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still think the whole special consideration for Notre Dame's another dumb thing that they do in college. Make them enter a conference for crying
I
out
agree.
loud. Jesus.
They're basically in the ACC. Just let them be in it.
Yeah, and if they're not happy with that because the ACC is only getting with one team in the playoffs, then go to the Big Ten. You wimps. What are you scared of? Scared of getting beat around and having recruits stolen from you. That's why they're not joining. They're just
if you're gonna
scared.
play the ACC
Come on,
schedule,
Notre Dame fans, let me know.
You deserve to get treated like an ACC team.
Yeah,
getting clipped, because they have a very passionate fan base too. So let us all prepare for the comments that we will get.
Because they can make all their money and everything else, but they're not going to be the best team in college football if they don't play in a tough conference. I mean, they can say they are all they want, but I don't think they should get any special treatment to get in. Stupid, but
no, but they're better than the other group of 5. So like we said, if there's 2 of them in last year, then yeah, they can take one of those spots.
It is pretty amazing though how Indiana, man, they rolled last year, beat Alabama 38-3, and then they beat Oregon 56-22 before they won the national title. So that was surprising, man. Indiana to get there was surprise number 1, but to just beat down those teams on the way to the championship was crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, they handled business, that's for sure.
But I think that's something that, again, when playoff football, it's always been there in Division III, Division II, Division I AA, and now you're finally seeing it in Division 1A. And what happens is that demoralization factor, if a team's starting to take you over and you're like, oh shit, our season's over, it's going to end, whatever, and then boom, they just totally tank. That's part of the process too, and that to me, again, is why I like a bigger playoff bracket as well, because there's way more emotion when it comes to a playoff system than there is to just one bowl game, so or even 2 games, when you have to win 3 weeks in a row and every week it could be over. It's exciting. Super exciting.
And I was looking at the bracket from last year too, and you have your top 4 teams that all get buys, and the old days, those would be your championship and runner-up games, and only one of them won, and it was Indiana. Everyone else lost right away.
When you start playing the games on paper, it's totally different than playing it on the field, so yeah, I mean, I like it when they have to get out there and play, because what happens in the first half of the season, by the second half of the season, the team could be totally different. They could have guys that are healthy now that weren't healthy at the beginning, and different things like that, and it's makes it a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm excited. We're going to see games in the next 20 days probably. I think it starts like around the 24th, doesn't it?
We should
like
get
that.
our college
Week 0?
pick'em set up. We should get our college pick'em set up. We said that we would do a college pick'em on ESPN with the three of us. We're basically, it's pretty easy in terms of like the different, other things that you can do. Like fantasy football is a lot of work, and like even making a bracket for March Madness is like can be a lot of work depending on how you do it. But college pick'em's pretty easy. You just get like 10 games a week that are the ones with the closest spreads for the most part, or I think they all are the closest spreads, and then you just pick who you think will win just based off vibes or whatever you want. And so I feel like that would be good for the three of us, and that would help narrow our focus on what we want to talk about, plus our other fave teams like Iowa, Oklahoma State, whatever, that aren't in the pick'em.
All right, well, we'll look at that. So that's really I think we covered the agenda that we were going to talk about today. So thanks, everybody. You've been listening to a podcast of three family members. We're talking ball. We're having a ball. You've been listening to Butterball.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Butterball Podcast. We post clips on there. So follow us on Instagram at Butterball Podcast.
And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Butterball Podcast and listen to us on Spotify.
Have a great week.